I'm consistently asking, like, what's the feeling I want to have here? If you ever see me teach, it's often, I would say, bring the joy. So I have joy triggers that I've set up in my mind that makes me more intentional about things. So for example, I have a door frame trigger. Whenever I walk through a door, I say, bring the joy. So when I walk through that door right there, it's like, bring the joy into this room. It's just a mental trigger that I've set up for myself. Every morning in the shower, I ask myself 3 questions. And the first question I say, what can I be excited about today? So it forces me to be clear about what's gonna draw joy, enthusiasm from me. Number 2, I say, what might trip me up today? Because usually I know what's going on in the day. I'm like, what might mess me up? Where might not perform well? What might bother me? And number 3, I say, what can I do to surprise somebody today? To give a gift of appreciation or acknowledgement today. And so I think through that in the morning. So I think that helps me begin my day pretty clear. Then when I sit down before I do work, I literally look at my calendar of the day. I did this morning, and I look at whatever's going on in the day, and I think about it for 20 minutes. It's one of my 20-minute routines in the morning. I literally think about my calendar for 20 minutes a day. People think that's crazy, but what I'm thinking through when I'm looking at the calendar, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have that call. What do I want to happen on that call? You know, what's my intention for that call? What's my goal for that call? What's the feeling for that call? How do I want to end that call? You know, I'm gonna have that time with Lewis. Like, how do I want to be there? And how can I make sure I enjoy it? Because it's a big deal. You know, I love your show. I want to do a good job. I want to share something good for the people, even though I have no idea what you're going to ask. I want to be present for that and make sure I'm really there, even though maybe I have a head cold today. You know, it's like it's like just thinking through it.
Need motivation? Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, strive to reinvent your life.
That first thing we all want a greater sense of is aliveness. And I always come back to this. Right? Reinvent your life for what? Well, could you reinvent your mindset, your habits, your peer group, your work efforts, so you have a greater sense of aliveness? Aliveness is that sense of vibrancy, of being, of passion, of presence in spirit in the moment. We all want to feel that. The good news is we can usually get aliveness to exactly what, Jonathan Fields talks about, which is savoring the moment more. We can feel greater aliveness when we up our health, right? Get better physical health to have more energy. We can feel that. What else do we reinvent towards? Well, we always talk about another corner of the triangle of being about connection. Specifically, we want connection with ourselves and connection with other people. This usually is about the area of your life called relationships, right? We want to improve, deepen our relationships, increase intimacy and vulnerability, just feel more real and connected with other people. Sometimes that changes your communication approach with your partner or your spouse. Sometimes that changes your partner or your spouse. I'm just teasing you out. I don't know what you need to reinvent, but it is a major area of concern, isn't it? Another major part of that triangle is meaningful pursuits, right? A sense of fulfillment or meaning in the act of progressing in our lives or creating in lives or leading in lives or building in our lives. That we want meaning and fulfillment, but specifically we want meaningful pursuits. Because some people have meaningful pursuit. They actually have a lot of meaning in their life, but they're not happy. Meaning does not always equal happiness. It always throws people off. They're like, Brendon, I have all the reasons in the world to be happy. I have a meaningful life. I don't know why I'm not happier. I'm like, oh, well, meaning and happy they're different things, right? What can add on to meaning to make it more happy is aliveness and connection, but also pursuit, right? We are human beings. We love to chase something. We love to build something, to be in progress, to be in motion, doing something meaningful does bring us more happiness, right? You can have happiness without everything being perfectly meaningful, right? I can eat a piece of chocolate with green tea and I'm happy. There ain't nothing meaningful in it. It's just a moment, right? So you can have happiness separated from meaning, clearly, but when we are pursuing something that matters to us and brings fulfillment, that makes a difference. And of course, in the middle of that triangle of aliveness, connection, and meaningful pursuits is growth. the sense that we are growing. Now, I've taught you this growth day model many times, so I won't belabor the point, but I do want to always re-aim us at those things, because after 15 years of coaching people one-on-one and in large groups, there's no question to me that after we have security and safety in some level, those are the things we're always striving for more of: more aliveness, more connection, more meaning, and more growth.
Rule number 3, fill your life with love.
What you find meaningful and fulfilling tends to come from things that you are doing, meaningful pursuits, that you find intrinsically and deeply interesting or passionate or even obsessive, in that you're like, I just love this thing so much. And the more that you love something, the more that you tend to find it to be fulfilling. And so we've got to allow ourselves to pursue our interests and our passions to the place of love. That when you have love in your life, you are more in connection with what will make you feel fulfilled. And it will be in more connection of what you will later on ascribe as a meaningful life. I've never met a person in all my years of researching personal development, reading all the great biographies, being with psychologists and sociologists and psychiatrists, and being with people in hospice at the end of their life, never met a single person to talk about, think about, write about, research, or experience a meaningful life absent of love. Not a single, never done it. I haven't read a spiritual text that love wasn't the center of what humankind's meaning is. I've never read any research that has found a happy person who didn't have deep, meaningful, connected, and loving relationships. I've never met someone who attained, the remarkable status of a billionaire or a multimillionaire or the CEO or the most successful person or expert in their field who didn't love what they were doing. Maybe they didn't love it every day, and that's a mistake. That every day is supposed to be perfect and joyous and abundant and oh my gosh, perfect. No, there's lots of days that aren't, but they're on what I would call a loving path. They're on a loving path. They love what they're doing. They might not even know what the career is, but every time they do that one thing, they feel a connection to it that's different than other things. There's more interest, more passion, more depth, more excitement, more something there. And we haven't been taught to pursue those things. Especially when we're young, we're taught to pursue avenues that lead to a specific result that society has said is good. We'll do this job because it leads to that salary. Instead of asking, what do you like doing? What are you interested in? What draws your passion? What do you love actually spending your time on?
Rule number 4, integrate the wins.
Integration. What does that mean? I was talking about this with so many friends who have had so many wins, right? Successes, and they don't feel like a success yet. So good things have happened to themselves, but they haven't integrated that they are good, right? It's that person who never feels satisfied, who always feels a lack, who never feels high self-worth. Why? Because even though the good things are happening, even though they've made things happen, they've never put their hand on their heart and integrated the good things into their identity. So everything else just bounces off. That if we want meaning and fulfillment to happen in our lives, when meaningful things happen, we have to integrate them into our life. We have to say, that was meaningful. And you almost have to pull it right into your body, in your mind, in your heart. You have to say, I felt that. It's like I was recently at a wedding, and it was funny to see how different people participate and see and experience weddings. To me, it's just like I'm taking so much of it in. And I wouldn't say because I'm an empath in any way. It's just because I go, you know what? this is one time, one day this gets to happen for them. Let me enjoy this with them. Let me bring some joy to this with them. And let's make this day meaningful. People know to do that. Make this day meaningful. Make this day meaningful on a wedding day or on a Christmas or on your birthdays. And then the rest of the days of the year just blur on by. Well, I think that first you have to choose to make it meaningful. That's what we do at weddings, right? But then you also have to stop and feel it and integrate it. I had a great mentor of mine, when she found out I was getting married, she said, Brendon, here's what I want you to do. At your wedding, on your wedding day, after the ceremony, I want to make sure that you pull aside your bride, Denise, 3 different times and make a meaningful moment with her and really integrate it into your memory and into your heart. It's the best piece of advice I got ever about my wedding day. It was like, right, make a moment, feel it, and really integrate. Take a moment to pause and take in life. Your newborn is finally starting to walk. Those are the moments where you take that in and you just pull it in. You integrate that into your life as a meaningful moment. But a lot of people don't take that same idea when they have successes in life. Good things happen. And so even though they have all the reasons in the world to be fulfilled, they don't feel fulfilled because they've never stacked or integrated all those good wins. They haven't taken a moment to think about them and to feel them and to be grateful for them.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, expand your vision.
You want to feel more meaning and fulfillment in your life? Think about life more. Read some philosophy. Read some great biographies of people who did great things. Expand your vision. And as soon as you expand your vision, there's a different sense of, I would say, emotion and motion in life. Expand that vision again. Open up that ambition again. Now, most people don't do that because, well, you don't understand, Brendon, I got disappointed. I failed. They don't believe in me. I'm like, and if you let every disappointment or failure or discourager out there pull at your life philosophy and where you're going in the future, if you forget that you are destined for greatness by God, or you are destined for goodness by a higher power, or if you don't believe in any of that, if you forgot the connection to your own future in which you want abundance and joy and amazing things for your family, well, then we got pulled into the mud, didn't we?
Rule number 6, be present in the moment.
You have to learn to practice presence. Practice presence. Being here, fully, in the moment, alive, vibrant, or at least attentive, right? Snapping your brain out of that reactive, go with the flow mode to no, and being here. That oldest advice in all of personal development about presence and awareness, about being with the flow, about being in the moment. Every spiritual tradition has taught it as being central to human happiness and connection. This has been stolen from us because of this. I really believe, I'm stunned when I hang out with people that they can't be present for 3 minutes without wanting to scroll through something. I mean, they can't be, even 4 or 5 minutes, they can't do it anymore because they have trained themselves with millions of swipes to be not present. And I believe that meaning and fulfillment, they become too fleeting when we haven't learned to be really present. And I think that's important. Learning to be really fully present and pulling that from ourselves. There's plenty of times, if you saw my schedule, you're like, how do you get present? I'm like, I've trained myself. Otherwise, I can just be pulled in the next thing. There's always a million things going on around me, and I have to learn to just zoom right in and be here with you. You have to teach yourself to do that too. Because the more days that blur by, the less sense of meaning or fulfillment you have. You can be busy, but the days don't blur by, right? I'm incredibly busy. I'm actually, this last 2 years, I can't believe how busy we got. But during that time, present. Forcing myself each day to get present so I can recognize and appreciate those little moments. So I can create the connection with other people. So that I can sense that spiritual aliveness of being here now versus hoping one day to arrive to something. And that practice of cultivating presence, of, I would say, and I know people don't like when I use this phrase, but demanding presence. I demand of myself to be present. Because I know when I'm not, I'm like, Brendon, get present. Okay. So I might bounce in place, take 10 deep breaths just to reset my brain and my body. Whew. And that 10 deep, maybe you do it right now with me. Just stand up wherever you're at, bounce in place a little bit, take 10 deep breaths. Recenter yourself to the moment and keep going. And that way you can observe life. Many people, they'll work their whole career, then they'll retire, and then they'll retire, and they'll finally be like, oh, wow, look at the color of the trees. This is amazing. Wow, life looks pretty good. And they didn't even see it for 5-6 years. They missed all of it. Even though they were amidst all of it, they just missed it. You have to teach yourself to be with it, to be here. Meaning and fulfillment is so much, as much as we can define it and have a destiny mindset, we can feel it. Like I do it for, like, if I have a great dinner with Denise, like things go great, we just have a nice conversation, I'll walk away and I'll like be like putting things away and just literally think in my mind, what a blessing. God, I've made it. Thank you so much for this blessing to be here with my wife. What a great day. What an amazing moment we just had. You know what? Years later, I'm going to cherish that dinner. Simple as that. It's what we say to ourselves in the minute and after the minute that really defines how we feel over the long term. Isn't it true? I mean, the little moments, if you can celebrate them, be there for them, give thanks for them. I believe the more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more meaning you find. The more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more you feel fulfilled. Even if you feel years away, even if the next big thing is out there, it's okay. Right now, you're feeling it. That's what presence is. It's about feeling the day more. You hear me teach this now for what, 20 years? It's like you have to learn to feel life. If we don't feel it, then what's it about? And you're not just going to suddenly one day feel it, you know, because you drank a bunch of coffee. Maybe you are, but you're gonna imagine me on caffeine. One day you're going to teach yourself to feel the day and feel the moments more. You're going to observe more. You're going to breathe more. You're going to have more intention. And as you learn to feel the day, when someone says, hey, do you feel fulfilled about your life? You're like, I do. Because you are filling life with presence. When you fill life with presence, you feel fulfilled. It takes an active participation on your point. You're not just going to show up one day and feel fulfilled. You have to fill the day with those senses of gratitude and meaning and really, I would say, connection. If you don't do that, I promise the days just blur by. And the more they blur by, the more you just stack on everybody else's reactions, needs, desires, drives, distractions, their meaning. And one day you show up and you're really just a bag of everyone else's intentions and needs and drives and labels and meanings. And in that place, you're not autonomous. In that place, you don't get to experience that individual sense of meaning and fulfillment we've talked about from the very beginning because you didn't take the time to define it consistently enough.
Rule number 7, cherish your life.
Do you know who feel incredible meaning in their lives? People who cherish their life. Cherish it. Truly cherish their life. And if you feel like I'm speaking philosophically to you, I'm not. I've had both the blessing and the very real difficulties of being with a lot of people at the end of their life. And many of you know I've volunteered in hospice. I've been with my own father as he passed away in our home. And I can share with you that it's not until too late that many people finally start cherishing their life, really owning and appreciating different parts of their life. And if you can remember to do that, I think something magical happens. That's why I ask everybody, go into your growth day journal every day and capture any meaningful moment, capture any sense of gratitude, capture any event you didn't like, and spin that meaning into such a way where you acknowledge what's real, but you're back in control of your emotions, feelings, and your next actions. It's like by the more often that we capture moments that we can cherish or moments that we can learn, the more life becomes more meaningful. But absent of that self-reflection, it's just a busy blur. That's why journaling has proven over and over and over in psychology, including mental health practices and yes, therapy, to dramatically shift people's thoughts and feelings and life satisfaction over the long term.
Rule number 8, see the big picture.
Your life matters. My life matters. Those people you hate out on the internet, their life matters. That what happens is we get so myopic into our own world of, okay, is the little thing I'm doing today, does that matter? Does my, this one thing I did, does that make me feel fulfilled and complete as a person? And we lack an overall life philosophy. An overall life philosophy that we have defined our lives and the context of humanity as meaningful. I know this might be too academic for some people. And that's why I use the word or the phrase, a destiny mindset. If you have lost that feeling that says, I have an opportunity to make a difference while I am here, you've lost that connection with what I'm calling a destiny mindset. A destiny mindset. And I know some people will take a destiny mindset that's like, oh, I got to see myself on a cover of a magazine. I'm like, I know lots of people on covers of magazines who don't feel a sense of meaning or fulfillment in their life. It's not an external thing. It's an internal or intrinsic thing that I just feel called. I feel that my life is leading to something important. I feel honored or privileged or grateful that I can make a difference in the future. And that make a difference in the future thing is an overall life philosophy that is connected to destiny. And I hope you start thinking about that, because you know what? Sometimes you wake up in the friggin' morning and you pull this thing out, don't you? You pull out your phone in the morning, and what do? You start scrolling through everybody else's stuff, everybody else's agenda, everybody else's life, and you get trapped into the myopic, looking at that comment and getting sad or upset about it. You get trapped into small things of life, the tasks, the emails, the responses. And all of a sudden you've been pulled into this tiny little myopic to-do list part of your life. And you forgot the being part of your life. You want to feel more meaning in your life? Start your day with that destiny mindset. Can you show me somewhere, something you look at every day that opens up your mind and reminds you to get out of that little myopic brain that we all have that's just focused right here? Because if you never look to the bigger vision of life, it's hard to ever feel a deep sense of meaning or fulfillment.
Rule number 9, be intentional.
I can have a terrible day. And at the end of the day, I can go, okay, 2 years ago, here's how I would have dealt with that terrible day. Today, how can I improve how I deal with this terrible day? It doesn't mean you don't have terrible days anymore, does it? It doesn't mean you're not tired. It doesn't mean you don't get stressed. It doesn't mean you don't get frustrated. What it means is you have the intention to ask, oh, how can I improve how I'm dealing with this? How can I, have you ever been in a relationship where you and your partner, your spouse have the same fight over and over and over and over and over and over again? It's literally the same fight over and over and over and over again. No, it's literally the same fight over and over. You ever had that? What's lacking is somebody there is lacking the accountability and the consistent action to say, how can I improve this? How can I do it? What's happened is it's turned into a blame game, right? This person's responsible, not me. No accountability, no action. I don't have to improve it. You improve it. You broke it. You cheated. You're the bad one. You're the one bringing this up. And all of a sudden, you, blame, no accountability. I don't have to change, no action. If both couples get into that, that's where couples therapy has to happen, because they're both in the blame game. They've both taken the accountability off. They believe the lie that, relationships have to be 50-50 equal. No, relationships actually mean 100-100. You're 100%, you're responsible for yourself. I'm 100% responsible for myself. And it takes 100% to keep improving this thing and making it better year over year. I think that's what people forget. It's not like huge dramatic shifts always need to happen. What has to happen for most people to change? Awareness, acceptance, and accountability. And then just small, consistent actions to improve, right? It's like, that can be so tactical and tangible. I think of my career as a coach. I just try to get better every session. It doesn't mean I'm always actually better every session. It's my intention. I'm going to get better. Every session with this client will get better. Sometimes it feels like it goes 2 steps back. Luckily, it's 3 steps forward at some point. And so I don't pretend that every day is a bright, shiny, happy place. I just pretend that every day it's possible to improve my reaction, to improve my energy, to improve how I treat this person, to improve how I stay congruent, right? It is that constant desire, that constant intention to have purposeful living. And no one has purposeful intention or purposeful living and decides, I don't want to improve today. You can accept yourself and still want to improve today, right? The Dalai Lama can be fully accepting of himself, but he can also want to improve his meditative practice, right? We all have that impulse to grow, improve, develop mastery.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is do meaningful things.
What do you find meaning in? Is there something you love you could give a few more hours to? Is there someone you love you could give a few more hours to? Is there an interest or hobby, a passion that you just love doing? And maybe, it doesn't add up to the bank account. It doesn't get you on the cover of the magazines, but it makes life worthwhile. You feel better. You feel a greater sense of fulfillment from life because you're living life, doing things, and being a person that you love. I think ultimately, all meaning and fulfillment, all roads somehow lead back to this topic of love. Might not have all the answers on that one, but that might be something for you to journal about today. How does love connect to your sense of meaning and fulfillment in life? That might mean you live with love, meaning you are loving-hearted towards other people. It might mean how you treat other people. It might be the things that you do. It might be your life philosophy. However you define it, I promise you, my friends, love, that's the answer somewhere. Sometimes achievement is not the problem. Alignment is. Like, you all get a lot done, right? You're busy, you got to-do lists, you're knocking off checklists, but sometimes getting some things done, that's not the problem. It's alignment. You've got to realign with the truth of who you are. What does that mean? Well, first, you got to recognize where you're not living your authentic life right now. If you want to feel a greater connection with purpose right now, let's figure out what we got to stop doing. Well, we better stop trying to run an old model of what other people expected of us. We have to stop trying to live the life other people want us to live and reconnect with the truth of who we are, realign with our intentions, our interests, our passions, our desires to create and serve. Listen, all purpose begins, the hunt for purpose begins with the realignment to personal truth. All purpose begins with the realignment to personal truth, like dialing it back into who you really are. what it is that you want at this stage of your life. What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? Noticing where you're living your life in obligation or reaction, right? Obligation because you think you have to fit somebody else's mold. Reaction because you're just always reacting to everybody else's emergency. And so suddenly your life isn't really your life. And so no wonder you don't feel purposeful. You'll never feel purposeful until you realign with your personal truths, the core of who you are, to notice what is authentic for you. Some of you are in relationships, you know that's not authentic to you. You know you're there out of obligation. You know you're there because you just kind of fell into it. But the truth of who you are is saying, please listen, this is not us. You know what? So many people are faking it. They're faking who they are. They're faking to create some perception of themselves, to position themselves a certain way. They're not living who they are, and they know they're lying. They don't dress how they want to dress. They don't speak how they want to speak. They can't find an authentic flow throughout the day because they're always trying to be somebody else or perform for somebody else versus doing who they are. If you want to connect to purpose, you've got to start doing who you are again. You've got to tap down right back in and realign to your personal truths. Realign to the core of who you are. Listen to your soul again. If your soul is screaming for change, you got to change. Otherwise, you'll never feel purpose. You've got to reconnect to that part of you that's like, oh my gosh, this is me. Where have I been? I know where you've been. You've been caged by other people's expectations. You've been caged by false obligations, by thinking you have to be the savior of everybody, by thinking you have to do everything. You've been caged by doing work or things that's not even in alignment with your passions, but you're doing it for a paycheck. Break every hour. Take an 8-hour workday. High performers, they're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. They aren't more lucky than you. It's not their age, their nationality, but one of the things they did during an 8-hour workday, they took 8 more breaks than you did. They took 8 more breaks than you did today. That's why tomorrow they show up more clear. That's why next week, when you're in the meeting and it's time to brainstorm and you're fried, you come up with nothing. It's that gal up on the whiteboard who wrote down 20 ideas because she's still fresh. That's not because her disposition. She's probably a high performer who took more breaks than you. We think breaking and pausing and refreshing is failure.
Sharpening, yeah.
It's I love that sharpening. I've never used that. I love that sharpening. It is sharpening. It is the NASCAR at the pit stop to make it go faster, to make it win the race. You forget sometimes where you started. Sometimes you forget all the obstacles you've overcome. And so you never really integrated the wins into your body and your mind and your identity, right? You had some wins. You did good in that relationship. You did good at that test. You did good at that business. You did good on that day. You made that sales call. You helped that person. But you did all these actions and you never changed the perception of yourself. You just held on to my identity is who I was as a child or what my parents told me or what these people told me. And it's been shaped by other people versus you giving yourself credit when you do things. And you've overcome a lot of obstacles, but you overcame them and you're just like, oh, well, what's the next obstacle? And you were reacting to go to the next one or chasing the next one, but you never integrated confidence. I mean, I've worked with major Olympians, major CEOs, super celebrities on the covers of magazines, and guess what? These people sometimes lack confidence. Even though outwardly everyone goes, what, they've achieved so much. Yes, they achieved things. They overcame things. They helped people. And yet they never stopped and said, you know what? Let me tap that into my identity a little bit. Let me allow myself to feel that credit. Let me appreciate myself and how hard it was to overcome these things or even just to survive today. Here's where you lack confidence in life. When you won't share your truth because you're worried what everyone else thinks. That's what high schoolers do. You don't do that anymore. You're too damn old. Now you share your truth with other people and realize most of them won't get it, won't understand why it's important, won't support you, won't care, or at least won't get in your way and say anything at all. But the less you speak your truth to other people, the more superficial your connections are with them. See, people often say, well, Brendon, people don't know me. Well, whose fault is that? Is it their fault they don't know you? Or have you actually provided consistent enough intel, congruently enough, over and over? They're like, I know that person. People in my life, they know me. They're like, that's Brendon. Because I say it, I speak it, I walk it, it's my truth. So that it's easier to connect with me because they understand me. And I think that's what's important for you too. Like, you got to speak your truth more often. Do the people around you really know what you want in life?
Often, when we really lose confidence, we've really lost sight of the future. You know, we're so trapped in today and doing things, and we're busy, and we've lacked that ability to really connect with the dream, to see it, to feel it, to touch it, and let the dream energize you, even if you don't feel good about yourself. There's days I don't feel good about myself, even today. I'm a human just like you. There's days I'm like, ugh, there's so much going on. I messed up this thing, and it's easy to do that. But if I detach from the future, I can guarantee my performance goes down. And I can guarantee my confidence goes down. See, part of confidence is you see yourself in the future in a good way. You see yourself in the future having good things, doing good things, feeling good things, making meaning, making a difference, having good relationships. So here's what I want to challenge you to do, if you would. I want you to, every morning that you wake up for the next 5 days, when you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, I want you to lay there and just visualize your life 10 years from now being great.
You must know your outcome. How can you possibly be focused or disciplined if you don't know the outcome you're after? Most people don't lack focus or discipline. They lack clarity that would give them the focus and the discipline. That's why the first high performance habits is seek clarity. We learned it from our research, right? Well, an outcome. What am I after here? What's the goal? What's the tangible or intangible thing that I know when I get there, when I see that, feel that, experience that, achieve that, that's what I'm after here. That some kind of outcome. You won't stay disciplined unless you can see, feel, sense, acknowledge intellectually what the outcome is we're after. If you're not disciplined on a consistent basis, it's because you don't know what you want. So don't beat yourself up that you're lazy. You just need to make a decision. You need to make a decision about what it is that you want. And it doesn't have to be what you want for your whole life, your ultimate grand purpose in the cosmos of the destiny of the universe. No. What do you want by Friday? What do you want by the end of the month? What do you want this quarter? It's like, start there. If you're really confused about the next 5 years of your life, please start with the next 5 weeks of your life. Come on. People don't understand. Clarity is built upon. You don't have the epiphany where everything's perfect. Very few people ever have a complete, perfect picture, epiphany moment of everything coming together in life. Very few people. Instead, usually what happens is, as we move throughout our lives, we get a little more clarity on what we like and what we don't like, what draws passion and strength and contribution and what doesn't. Know your outcome. You want discipline? Know your outcomes.
How often does your passion show up in a group setting every week? How often does your passion show up in a group setting every week? Well, if it's not, that explains why the bonds of the groups that you're around aren't that deep yet. You have to both inject your passion into conversations so people actually know what you think about, what you're interested in, what you're deeply thoughtful about. Like, all of your friends, and I want you to write this down, all of my friends should know my passions. All of them. Otherwise, they're strangers. All your friends. I'm a person, like, if you know me, you're gonna know my passions real fast. And people say, yeah, but I can't tell my family this, they think that, or I can't tell her that, they think that. I'm like, what are we, in high school? Are you really holding back your passions based on what someone else will think? That's okay in high school. Once you hit 18, that's no longer allowed. Now that's just called sabotaging yourself for no reason whatsoever other than your internal fears of embarrassment, which, by the way, shouldn't last that long after 18 years old.
Not when you're doing the personal development work. Like, get over that. It's okay. Everyone should know. And if they have judgment to it, guess what? They also judged your clothes today. They also judged your hair today. They judged your website. Who cares? Why is everyone so scared about judgment? The less you are worried about judgment, the greater friends you have. When you realize because you know what? I want people to reject me. Because if I'm not in their tribe or I'm not their guy, great. I don't have to go spend a bunch of time trying to build a relationship with somebody who's like that. So don't fear the judgment. And don't keep pressing down, suppressing, or quieting your passions to try to fit in, to try to be liked. Share what you love. Share your passions. We must be more explicit when we're upset with people and let them know. I would say 9 out of 10 things that I do to upset Denise, I have no clue. And I don't think is a big deal at all. But the 1 out of 10 she tells me, I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. Explicit communication is the most important thing in all of repair. All of it. You must say it. You must not hint at it. You must not be passive aggressive. You must use the words to describe exactly how you felt and what your request is for next time. Describe how you felt, not describe what they did, describe how you felt, and then make the repair request for next time. Next time that happens, can we do this? As you're developing this vision, it's not just your vision, you're enlisting other people to share their voices, their perspectives, their dreams, their desires for where you could be going. You know, I think that the most important leadership lesson in the world is that people support what they create. If people are involved in the ideation of a vision, they're involved in creating ideas, of brainstorming, of figuring out what is it we are about, what do we stand for, where are we going? Great leaders enlist that from other people. They're constantly asking people what they think, how they feel, what things they desire and need. And it's that enlistment that is always going on. A great leader is always enlisting other people to believe in the dream, to shape the dream, to stay dedicated to the dream. It's an honest and an authentic and a genuine desire to see other people be involved in the process and to enjoy that process. I mean, it's so vital. And that methodology of how do you get people involved in that? You're asking questions. You're paying attention to their needs. You're reflecting back to things that you're hearing. You're always enlisting others to support and to build this vision, this ideal future together. Does anyone have a friend who talks on and on and on about something that you aren't passionate about at all? Anyone out there? Encourage them. Keep listening. Don't we all need friends like that? It's important. It's important for you to listen to other people's passions, and it's okay if there isn't. I have one friend that is so passionate, insane, like otherworldly passionate about video games. Now, I haven't played a video game in, I don't even know how to use the controllers. Anyone else have that? You ever go to your friend's house and their kids pop out the video game, they hand it to you and you get this controller and it's like a spaceship and you don't even know what it does? That's me. I don't know how to play a video game. I'm not interested in video games at all. Like I'm not even interested in it. And I have this friend. We will go out and he will tell me about video games for like 90 minutes. And I'm so interested because that's his passion. When someone's talking passion, you know what you say? Tell me more. It doesn't have to be your passion. Stop listening for what you want to be and experience and who you are, and honor and see the other. Their passions, their ideas, their goals, their concerns. That's how to win friends and influence people.
We know that there's so many people out there who just have horrible energy that it's hard to be around them. Maybe they're bitter, they're upset all the time, they're in a bad mood all the time, and you're like, gosh, I don't want to be around that person. But at the same time, I promise you've probably been that person once or twice in the past, right? I mean, we all have bad days. We all get grouchy once in a while. We have mood swings once in a while. We're human. We have this huge range of emotions. But how do you have good mojo on a consistent basis. And people ask me that all the time. They see all these videos that we release here, and they're always saying, well, you have such good positive energy. How did you develop such good positive energy? And I'm not sure it's something that necessarily you develop. I think it's just something that you choose to generate. I always say you don't have good energy, you generate good energy. But I think there is a few things that we can learn from really positive, buoyant people who have good mojo, right? Think about it. Do you know somebody who just has awesome mojo? Like, you get around them, you feel good about life, you feel good about yourself, you're inspired by them. What is it? What do they have? What are they generating? What is it about them that makes you feel that way? Well, I've noticed that the first trait of people who have good energy, good positive mojo, the first thing is they're released from the past. They're not carrying their junk into the current moment, They're actually right here with you in the present moment, detached from the past. It's like if you go out with your bunch of friends and you're having a great lunch together. The reason the lunch is going great is because everybody's just there and they're vibing, they're telling stories, they're having a good time. It's not that they have all this heavy burden from them from, yesterday or the days before. They're released to be themselves in the moment, to contribute to the moment, to be fully present and vital in the moment. It's like they're really living in the moment, and that comes from releasing the past. It comes from not being too attentive to the next 9 minutes, the next 10 days, the next year. They're right here with us. So if you want to develop great positive energy in your life, it's about releasing whatever has been burdening you. You maybe been carrying a cross or a frustration or an upset for so many years, and maybe it's time to let it go. Just to give yourself that gift of having the freedom in the moment to actually feel positive.
Leadership, the delegate dance is always about the vision decision. It's about you or the leader or the group of leaders taking the mantle and that authority and accountability to say, okay, we've listened to all interested parties. We've done our best to understand what everybody needs and wants, but ultimately, this is the vision decision. This is where we are going to go together as a group. Someone's got to hold that space, take that mantle, lead that charge, repeat that vision over and over and over. Somebody or some group has got to own that. When you look at great movements that could have been, they didn't have someone or a particular group owning that vision decision. Because, right, you've heard also the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many voices, lacking aim or organization and alignment is ruined. So you've got to decide, okay, I have this movement, I have this idea. Are you going to be the vision decision maker or among that group? Like in companies today, right, in the crazy times we're living economically, where there's so much funding of new startup companies, as an example. It's all about, okay, who's on this team? Who's the decision maker? What are they capable of? And where do they want to go together? And if you believe in them and you want to, if you're investing in a company, you want to believe in that team or that board, and that's going to define so much of how you invest, more than their metrics. Because it's about that dream team. Who's making the decision? But ultimately, leadership is going to rest on 1, 2, 3 people. And that's why you have CEOs of organizations, right? That's why you have, the big leaders of movements from throughout history. It always kind of fell on someone who had to make the tough calls. And that business decision shapes everything, organizationally, economically. You think of like when a Steve Jobs left or was forced out of Apple and came back in, the approach that he had to take, a vision decision, was, oh, you know what? We're doing all these things. I think we need to go over here, and it might not be popular. And there's other voices saying support these things, but this is the track we're going to have to take and have to make those hard decisions. So it's always those things. Have open ears, make the hard decisions.
You must make bold moves sooner than later. I mean, here's the truth. When I was living here in Montana, I envisioned myself living in the Caribbean someday on a beautiful beach. 20 years ago, I envisioned that. If I could go back, why did I wait 20 years to move here? because I thought all these conditions had to happen before I could have the thing. And I'm here to tell you, sometimes the real trick is to put yourself in play in the dream sooner than later, right? You want to be a world famous tennis player? Well, don't think that you need to go do 50 things. What you need to do is get yourself on the tennis court every day. You want to live on a beach? Move to a beach. Yeah, maybe you're living in a tent or a shack at first, but you're on the beach and you're putting yourself in the motion of the dream, right? You want to be a filmmaker? Film every day, right? You want to be, I mean, you think about like the greats. You think about like a Steven Spielberg. I mean, he was shooting every day as a kid. It wasn't like he was waiting one day to have a producer come along and say, let's make a movie, kid. He just started. And that's what you have to do. Whatever your dream is, please don't be like me and wait 20 years to access it. What I should have done is just moved earlier. But I thought, well, no, this condition, and then I'll make this, and then I'll build that, and the team will be here. And it was like, now that I'm here, I walk around and go, look at this beautiful place. Why didn't I come here earlier?
How do you deal with different personality traits on teams? You don't deal with personality traits. You deal with people. Because the truth is I have extrovert in me and introvert, right? In psychology, we talk about the big five, right? And the big five is basically like openness to experience. We talk about conscientiousness. We talk about extrovert, introvert. We talked about agreeableness. We talk about neuroticism. We all have those things in us. And the idea of personality traits and managing to them was really popular in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now, most people who really study high performance work, they're really not that interested in personality traits because personality traits are poor predictors of long-term success. Meaning, I mean, how would you predict a Bill Gates or an Elon Musk or a Marianne Williamson or a Gabby Davis, or how would you predict a Michelle Obama? You couldn't do it by personality. It's what these people want to achieve, how they want to contribute, how they want to interact with other people, and that doesn't always align with their personality. So stop worrying about personality traits, meet people where they are and how they are, and understand what do they really desire. Not that personality assessments can't help with that, but it doesn't correlate with long-term success. So all the ideas that we're supposed to measure people by personality assessments have all fallen flat when correlated with long-term success or productivity. And so those who really appreciate that reality of science then have to ask, what's a better way to do it? And the better way to do it is make sure everybody on the team gets what we are about and what we are working towards. And when they are not meeting that, their personalities conflict over here, right? Their styles conflict over here. The job is to say, listen, this conflict that's happening over here is compromising who we said we are and where we said we are going. You are breaking your word. You said that this mission, that what we're trying to build here is what we want. Is that true? Okay, well then your style or your personality or how you guys are conflicting, it needs to change or it needs to adapt because this is where we're going and this is who we are. And it's really important that you make people accountable. One of the great leaders who runs one of my other companies, who has taught me, a partner in one of my other companies, he always says, listen, if people are letting their personalities clash and they're fighting and having a lot of conflict, he goes, I let them know. I say, hey, you're not meeting your responsibilities here. You're making this about you. And it's about our mission. You're making this about how you want things and how you're fighting with that person versus being a good role model and a steward to this team. And when you make it about you, you're letting us all down. So in this conflict situation, if you need to be humble or you need to forgive, or you need to make another effort to connect, you need to do that. Or you're letting us all down and you're breaking your word because you said you're in it, you're here, that you want to contribute, that you want to be part of a productive culture. And this conflict that you're all having, whether it's ego or it's just people who aren't understanding each other, you all need to figure that out. The two of you need to figure this out because otherwise you're slowing us down
and you're letting us down, you're hurting our brand, you're hurting our business, and that's on you. So what are you gonna do to make it better? And it's like, whoa, that's real talk. That's a lot better than saying, you know what, I think you guys should take a personality test and just see how you could work together. No, it's like, you're professionals here. It's like, it's okay. In almost everything we've actually learned in the studying of performance of teams, having diversity and differing personality styles is great, and it doesn't impact performance. That's just one more indicator that measuring personality traits and styles really is a not useful thing, because all we know is the more we throw together, the more you're probably gonna do better anyway. So this whole idea of like, I'm scared of managing difference and diversity is what makes people perform higher, as long as there's openness in the culture to that difference. Please make sure you read the culture code that will help kind of work through that and avoid personality traits as much as possible. Manage people towards the things that you've agreed to go towards. We have to evaluate. Some of the hardest things that we do in all of leadership, to evaluate the key people who are with us, their contributions, evaluate their skills, evaluate their needs, and to evaluate the ethics that are going on in our organization, in our team. Are we being excellent and are we being ethical? Is the questions that we're evaluating on, right? Are we being excellent and ethical as we are progressing? Which I guess would be the third question. Are we progressing? If not, why? Are we being ethical? If not, why? If our people are not being excellent, if not, why? These are the questions that we have to ask as this practice. And evaluation, it's like every day as a leader. You know, you've got to keep your thumb on the pulse to see, hey, how are we doing? Are we alive? Are we moving forward? That evaluation also brings up the incredible challenge that we face as leaders, which is to give honest, direct, immediate, constructive feedback to those people who are trying to influence and lead. You know, to our collaborators, to our friends, to our followers, whatever word that you use for them. I mean, it's vital that we are paying attention and seeing when things are going off the rails, you know, that we never check out. I mean, it's a consistent process of checking in and seeing how we're doing and paying attention to really evaluating the progress of our mission.
The human brain has an incredible capacity for guilt. And most people unconsciously let that roll over them and kick their butt and make a horrible life. I love guilt. Guilt is a tool. Guilt is a weapon. Guilt does not have to be a bad thing. It's not like I perpetuate, but I'm like, I love that I feel bad when I don't do a good job. Most people hate that about themselves. I love that feeling. I'm like, I didn't do a good job there. Next time I will. So some people, guilt is discouragement. Other people, it's a signal for learning. To me, guilt is a signal for learning. It is the body and the brain, the spirit, knowing what is right, knowing what is wrong, knowing what's great, knowing what's mediocre. And it's saying, hey, do a little better. Now, if it's translated into a negative impulse, then some people call it guilt. But I'm totally cool with guilt. I think it's good that we feel bad when we do something that is below our standard or that's not right, because that impulse to go, I want to do that better.
Demonstrate courage. And I think all personal development people, of course, you know, but they actually, high performers do demonstrate courage. Like we can measure it from peer feedback. We can measure it from their self-assessments. We can measure it from, we have this thing called the high performance indicator assessment. You take it, you get scored on all 6 habits. It's free on the internet, on the interwebs. But this one's peaked when we did the research and I didn't know it. And it is, high performers are more willing to share their ideas, their thoughts, their feelings, what they need, what they want, and they do it more consistently than their peers. Even when there's risk or uncertainty, you do a great job. I know you have, the book's coming out for you, talking about men and being vulnerable. That's demonstrating courage. That's, you know, when you're not conditioned that way or you're not used to that, you know, that it might not seem like a big deal, but it is.
Yeah.
You know, when you talked about me doing this interview, that was like, it might not seem like demonstrating courage to go on Lewis Howes, but it is, because I admire you. And I'm not used to sharing a lot. You know, I'm usually let the work speak for itself.
Yeah.
So I had to I need to share, you know, being willing to share this in different and unique ways. But I think for most people, it's, when you were in your last meeting, did you share for your ideas and fight for them?
Did you share for your ideas?
Did you share your ideas and fight for them. When you wanted to post that video and you were scared to death because people are going to make fun of you, did you do it? And when you wanted to tell your spouse that you're not getting what you need, did you say it? Because all those are demonstrating courage. It's not just, courage, we think pulling someone out of the river or something. And that's part of it.
It's so simple. Like when you get that life is really short and you felt that before, either by you were threatened or you've had someone near and dear die, but when you have that real essence in you that says life is short, have reverence for it, live it, that's a really big thing. I got that at 19, and I learned specifically that if we have a moment of cognition before the end of our life, we tend to ask questions to evaluate if we're happy. So if I have any impact in the world, it's going to come from that experience where I learned that the ultimate lesson is determine what the questions you're going to ask at the end of your life are going to be. Find out those questions. What will you ask at the end of your life to evaluate your life so that you would know if you were happy with your life? Like, figure out those questions and then live each day intentionally so you're happy with the answers at the end. For me, the questions I had were, did I live? Which I hadn't. I hadn't been living my life. I'd been thinking about taking my life. Right. Did I love? No, my heart was broken. And I put up all these walls to keep out other people. And I always say, sometimes the walls we put up to keep out the bad guys prevent the good guys from getting in. And suddenly in our own self-protection, we block out the very thing we want, which is connection. And I learned that I would ask, did I matter? 22 years ago, on a dark Caribbean night, I'm standing on the crumpled hood of a car, bleeding out. My friend and I just wrecked a car. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's bleeding. We don't know if we're going to live. And I'm standing on the hood of this car, looking down at all this blood, and I'm in terror. And I just remember looking down at the hood and just thinking, did I even matter? And I hated the answer at that time in my life. Because I'm a 19-year-old kid. I didn't know about impact theory. For real. I didn't know to think about that. Young kids sometimes, they don't know to think about that. I didn't know to think about legacy, meaning. Did I matter? I didn't think I did. But the good news is, I'm a good learner. And I felt like I got a second chance from God that night. And I learned that it was really important for me to figure out how do I live and how do I love and how do I matter in such a way that if I face my death again, I'll know I've earned the second chance. And so what I want to tell people and the impact I want is I just want people to know your questions, man. Live intentionally and earn the life that you've been given because this moment's a blessing. So earn this moment and live intentionally.
Stage one was I was honest that I was a hot mess. I came back from the accident and I'm like, I'm a mess. I've been depressed. I was going to kill myself. I'm sad. My grades suck. My friends are kind of like losers, not in a judgmental way to them, but in how I wanted to feel. They made me feel bad about myself. And that's why I think a loser isn't what they've accomplished. It's how they make other people feel. Two different things. They made me feel bad. And I thought, I don't have it together. And that began my great and long-term committed search to studying psychology. Because I'm like, why do I think so dumb? Why do I feel so bad about myself? How do you overcome, depression? How do I deal with this sadness? Why do I still have so much hatred in my heart about something that happened so long ago? Like just all this, like people say forgiveness. How do you do that?
I remember seeing, this is way back, Oprah had Oprah.com. And I thought, how cool would it be to have your name.com? Now, I sought this kid out. So I went to Brendon.com, and this guy, he had his resume up there. And that's all he had, was a resume. So I emailed the guy, and I'm like, hey man, I'd really love to own this website. Could I buy it from you? He goes, no, it's my name. I'm like, dang it. And he says, no, I got my mom, she's got, an email, we have an email associated with the domain.
Right.
All this stuff. I said, oh man, all right. So I set it in my calendar. Every 6 months for 6 years.
Whoa.
My calendar would go off And I'd email him again, email him again, email him again, email. It took 6 years. On the 6th year, he said, you know what, yeah, I'd be interested in that conversation. Sold it, so I got Brendon.com. I'm really happy about that, really thrilled. Stupid story, but I was like, yes, determination.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Tom Bilyeu, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Where do you think all success starts with?
Well, the fast answer is mindset. Going back to the only belief that matters, you said it. It's the way you act is ultimately all that matters.